Sometimes the people society overlooks become the very ones who save us all. On this freezing Chicago night, a homeless man's single act of courage would change everything for two families forever. Marcus Thompson walks the cold streets, searching for shelter after losing everything in a workplace accident. He spots flames dancing behind the windows of a mansion and doesn't hesitate. Marcus breaks through the gates and crashes inside to find a family trapped by smoke on the second floor. He carries them out one by one, mother, children, parents, all members of the billionaire Chen family. As sirens approach, Marcus quietly disappears into the night. The security cameras caught it all, but Marcus doesn't know he's about to become famous. What drove this man to the streets, and how will one night change both families forever? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The yellow construction hard hat sits beneath a Chicago overpass, its surface scarred by years of honest work. Marcus Thompson adjusts his threadbare coat against the December wind, remembering when that helmet meant something. When it represented a paycheck, a home, a future. 2 years ago, he was Marcus Thompson, foreman at Hartwell Construction, a man who built skyscrapers and raised a family. Now he's just another invisible soul navigating the city's forgotten corners. The accident replays in his mind as it does. Every night. A crane cable snapped during the Morrison Tower project, sending a steel beam crashing down. Marcus pushed two younger workers to safety, but couldn't dodge the impact himself. 3 crushed vertebrae, months of surgeries, and a prescription drug dependency that consumed his savings faster than his healing consumed time. Workers' compensation fought every claim. Medical bills buried him deeper than any foundation he'd ever dug. Sarah Thompson, his Sarah, tried to hold everything together. She worked double shifts at the hospital while Marcus lay in bed, his pride crumbling alongside his spine. When the foreclosure notice arrived, something inside him shattered beyond repair. He couldn't watch his family lose everything because of his broken body. The divorce papers he signed weren't about love lost. They were about love preserved. Sarah deserved a fresh start, and their daughter Emma deserved a father who wasn't drowning. Emma was 16 when he walked away. College-bound, on a roll, everything he'd worked for. She begged him to stay, tears streaming down her face, but Marcus knew the mathematics of ruin. His presence would drag them all down. Better to disappear than destroy what remained of their chances. The streets taught him different lessons than construction sites ever had. Where to find food without begging. Which shelters asked fewer questions. How to remain invisible to police while staying visible enough to avoid predators. The yellow hard hat became his pillow, the only piece of his former life he couldn't abandon. Across the city, in a limestone mansion overlooking Lake Michigan, David Chen reviews quarterly reports in his study. The walls display patents and awards from his software empire, each frame a testament to innovation and determination. His company pioneered logistics algorithms that revolutionized shipping worldwide. At 52, he's achieved everything the American dream promised, and more. Sarah Chen moves through their home with practiced grace, coordinating tomorrow's charity gala while monitoring their children's homework progress. She graduated from Northwestern with a degree in social work, but hasn't practiced in years. Instead, she channels her compassion through fundraising, writing checks to causes that sound important but feel distant. Their daughter Amy, 14, excels at piano and debate team. She carries herself with the quiet confidence of someone who's never known want. Her brother Kevin, 11, divides his time between soccer practice and computer programming, already showing his father's aptitude for technology. Both children attend private school, their biggest concerns involving college applications and weekend social plans. Grandmother Mei Chen, David's mother, maintains the family's connection to their Chinese heritage. At 78, she's still tends a small garden behind the mansion, and prepares traditional meals that fill the house with memories of her homeland. She immigrated to America with nothing but determination and a jade bracelet her own. Grandmother had given her a symbol of family continuity across generations. The Chen family's wealth insulates them from Chicago's harsher realities. There, charitable work focuses on education and technology access, noble causes that never bring them face to face with actual poverty. They donate to homeless shelters without seeing the people who sleep there. They fund job training programs without meeting the unemployed. Their compassion is real but abstract, filtered through tax-deductible contributions and fundraising dinners. This evening, like most evenings, the family gathers for dinner in their formal dining room. Crystal glasses reflect candlelight, while David discusses expanding their foundation's reach. Sarah mentions the upcoming gala's impressive attendance. Amy shares news about her debate tournament victory. Kevin demonstrates a new app he's coding. Grandmother May listens with pride, occasionally offering wisdom wrapped in gentle stories. None of them notice the small electrical issue developing in the mansion's aging wiring system. The house was built in 1924, its infrastructure updated, but not replaced. Behind elegant wallpaper and crown molding, decades-old circuits strain under modern demands. A connection loosens in the basement, creating the smallest of sparks. Outside their windows, Chicago's homeless population navigates another brutal winter night. Emergency shelters fill beyond capacity. Street veterans like Marcus know which. Doorways provide wind protection, and which businesses won't call police. The city's two worlds exist simultaneously: abundance and scarcity, warmth and cold, hope and survival. Marcus shoulders his small backpack, everything he owns condensed into one worn canvas bag. The hard hat hangs from a carabiner clip, bumping against his hip as he walks. He's heading north tonight, toward neighborhoods where garbage bins might contain better discards and where building alcoves offer shelter from the lake-effect wind. He doesn't know he's walking toward destiny. Doesn't know that a family's lives hang in the balance mere miles away. Doesn't know that security cameras are about to capture images that will transform him from invisible to famous overnight. Most importantly, he doesn't know that his capacity for heroism remains intact despite everything life has stripped away. The Chen family settles into their evening routines, unaware that salvation walks the frozen streets outside, wearing a torn coat and carrying the heart of a man who still knows how to save others, even when he couldn't save himself. The jade bracelet catches the lamplight as Grandmother May prepares for bed, its green surface smooth from decades of worried fingers. She inherited it from her own grandmother in Shanghai, carrying it through revolution, immigration, and the building of a new American life. Tonight, she places it carefully on her nightstand, unaware it will soon become part of another family story. Downstairs, the electrical fault that began as a minor imperfection spreads through the mansion's vintage wiring. What started as a loose connection now generates heat, and heat seeks fuel. Behind the basement walls, insulation begins to smolder. The scent is barely detectable, masked by the furnace's normal operation and the lingering aroma of May's evening. T. Marcus trudges through Lincoln Park, his breath forming clouds in the 17-degree air. The lake-effect snow has stopped, but the wind hasn't relented. His destination is the North Shore, where wealthy neighborhoods sometimes offer better shelter options. Heated bus stops, 24-hour coffee shops, emergency vestibules that security gods might overlook on a night. This brutal each step sends pain through his damaged spine, a reminder of that terrible day when heroism cost him everything. He's learned to manage the discomfort without medication, having witnessed too many street friends disappear into chemical numbness. Pain keeps him alert, keeps him moving, keeps him alive. Inside the Chen mansion, the family has retired for the evening. David reviews emails in the master bedroom, while Sarah applies her nightly skincare routine. Amy practices piano scales in her room, the melody drifting through the house. Kevin plays a quiet video game, headphones on to avoid disturbing others. May reads a Chinese poetry collection, the familiar characters connecting her to ancestral wisdom. None of them detect the smoke now, beginning to seep through basement vents. The fire starts small, a wisp of flame kissing a wooden support beam. But old wood is hungry for combustion, and the mansion's heating system creates perfect draft conditions. Within minutes, what began as smoldering insulation becomes active flame, climbing toward the main floor with accelerating appetite. Marcus rounds the corner onto Lakeshore Drive, where mansions stand like fortresses against the night. He's walked this route before, always feeling like an intruder in a world that clearly doesn't want him. Security lights track his movement, and it keeps his pace steady, not hurried like someone running from trouble. Not slow like someone casing properties. Just a man walking, invisible by design. The smoke alarm in the Chen basement finally responds, its shrill warning echoing through empty recreational rooms. But the family sleeps 3 floors above, and the sound doesn't penetrate their insulated sanctuary. The fire discovers the stairwell, using it as a chimney to reach the main floor, where expensive furnishings provide abundant fuel. It's Amy who first smells smoke. She pauses her piano practice, nose wrinkling at the acrid scent that doesn't belong in their carefully maintained home. She opens her bedroom door and immediately encounters a haze that shouldn't exist. Her scream pierces the night high, terrified, absolutely genuine. David bolts upright in bed, instantly alert. Sarah grabs her robe as they both rush toward their daughter's voice. Kevin emerges from his room confused and frightened. May appears in the hallway, her jade bracelet, forgotten on the nightstand as family safety becomes the only priority. The main staircase is blocked by smoke and flame. What began in the basement has consumed the home's central nervous system, cutting off their primary escape route. David herds his family toward the master bedroom, the largest room with windows that might offer escape options. But they're on the second floor, and the ground below is frozen concrete. Marcus sees the orange glow through the mansion's windows before he smells the smoke. His construction background immediately identifies the situation. A house fire, well established, with people likely trapped inside. He doesn't pause to consider property laws or personal safety. Training and instinct override everything else. He scales the iron fence surrounding the estate, ignoring the pain that shoots through his spine with each movement. The front door is locked, but Marcus spent 20 years in construction. He knows how buildings come apart. A decorative stone from the garden becomes his key, shattering the door's glass panels so he can reach the deadbolt inside. Smoke billows out as he enters, thick and toxic. He drops to his hands and knees, remembering fire safety lessons from job sites. The air is cleaner near the floor, and crawling reduces smoke inhalation. He calls out, his voice hoarse but strong, "Fire department. Anyone inside?" The response comes from above multiple voices, terrified and desperate. Marcus locates the staircase, now a tunnel of flame and smoke. The main route is impassable, but his years of building houses taught him that every structure has multiple paths. He finds the service stairway, narrower and less affected by the fire's current path. Climbing hurts. Each step sends agony through his damaged spine, but he's carried heavier burdens up steeper climbs. At the second floor, he follows the voices to the master bedroom, where the Chen family huddles together, overwhelmed by smoke and fear. May is the smallest and most vulnerable. Marcus wraps her in a damp towel he grabbed from a bathroom, covering her nose and mouth. She weighs almost nothing in his arms, a lifetime of gentle living evident in her fragile frame. He carries her down the service stairs, through the smoke-filled main floor, and outside to safety, before rushing back. The children come next. Kevin first, because he's closer to panic. Then Amy, who tries to be brave, but shakes uncontrollably. In Marcus's arms. Each trip up those stairs becomes more difficult as smoke thickens and his body protests. But construction taught him that some jobs demand everything you have, regardless of personal cost. David and Sarah are last, both adults, capable of helping themselves but overcome by smoke inhalation. Marcus guides David down first, then returns for Sarah, who's begun losing consciousness. The final descent tests every reserve of strength he possesses. His back screaming in protest as he carries her to safety. Emergency sirens wail in the distance as Marcus delivers Sarah to her family on the front lawn. The Chens huddle together, alive and intact, watching their home surrender to flames. May clutches the jade bracelet Marcus retrieved from her knit stand, a detail no firefighter would have known to save. Marcus backs away from the reunion, his job complete. He's invisible again, just a shadow moving toward the fence while the family focuses on each other and the approaching fire trucks. But the security cameras mounted throughout the estate have recorded everything. Every moment of heroism, every act of selfless courage. As he disappears into the night, Marcus has no idea that his life as an invisible man is about to end forever. The morning newspaper lies folded in David Chen's hospital room, its headlines screaming, "Mystery Hero Saves Billionaire Family." Inside those pages, a grainy security camera image shows Marcus carrying May Chen to safety, his face partially obscured, but his yellow construction hard hat clearly visible. The artifact that once represented his downfall has become the key to his identification. David stares at the photograph, his throat raw from smoke inhalation, but his mind clear. The man who saved his family's lives disappeared without asking for anything. No reward, no recognition, no thanks. In David's world of calculated exchanges and mutual benefits, such selflessness seems almost impossible. "We have to find him," Sarah whispers from the neighboring hospital bed. Her voice is hoarse, but her conviction is strong. The children recovered quickly from their smoke exposure, but both parents required overnight observation. May sits in a chair between their beds, the rescued jade bracelet on her wrist, her fingers tracing its familiar surface. "The police are working on it," David replies, though he knows bureaucratic timelines don't match his urgency. Every business instinct tells him that debts must be paid, especially one this profound. The security footage is being enhanced. Someone will recognize him. Across the city, Marcus huddles in the abandoned warehouse where he spent the night, unaware that his image is circulating through every news outlet in Chicago. The space is freezing, but it's dry and hidden from wind. He examines his hands, noting the burns from hot doorknobs and melted synthetic materials. His back aches worse than usual after carrying 5 people down smoke-filled stairs, but everyone lived. That's what matters. He thinks about the family he saved, their terror, their relief, their obvious wealth. The mansion represented more money than he'd ever seen, filled with artwork and furnishings that cost more than most people earn in years. Yet, in those critical moments, wealth meant nothing. They were just people who needed help, and he was someone capable of providing it. The hard hat beside him bears new scorch marks, additional scars from a night that changed everything. Marcus runs his fingers over its familiar dents and scratches, each mark a memory from his construction days. He doesn't know that this yellow helmet has become the most recognizable object in Chicago, featured on every front page and news broadcast. Detective Rosa Morales studies the security footage for the 100th time, impressed by the mystery man's competence under pressure. Her 20 years in law enforcement taught her to recognize training when she sees it. This wasn't random luck, but practiced skill. Someone had taught this man how to move through dangerous situations, how to prioritize rescues, how to stay calm when others panicked. Construction background. she tells her partner, Detective James Walsh. Look how he handles the building layout. Finds the service stairs instead of fighting the main fire. He knows structures, knows how buildings work. Walsh nods, making notes. The hard hat supports that theory. We've got calls coming in from every construction company in the city, but nobody recognizes him yet. Could be unemployed, between jobs, working under the table. What they don't consider is that Marcus Thompson, master carpenter and construction foreman, has been invisible for 2 years. His former colleagues assume he left Chicago after the accident. His contractor's license expired unrenewed. His union membership lapsed when dues went unpaid. Bureaucracy erased him as efficiently as personal tragedy did done at Chicago General Hospital. Amy Chen sits beside her grandmother's bed, sketching the mysterious hero from memory. Her artistic talent captures details the security cameras missed. Careful way he handled May. The gentle voice that calmed their panic. The limp he tried to hide as he carried them to safety. He was hurt, Nai, Amy tells her grandmother, using the Mandarin term for paternal grandmother. I could tell his back was injured, but he didn't stop. He just kept coming back for all of us. May nods, her weathered hands holding the jade bracelet Marcus rescued from her knitstand. In her experience, true character reveals itself during crisis. This stranger chose pain over abandonment, chose sacrifice over safety. Such people are rare in any culture. Your grandfather was like this, May says quietly. During the war, he carried wounded soldiers while bombs fell around him. Some people are born to protect others, even when it costs them everything. Kevin Chun processes the night differently, his 11-year-old mind focusing on the technical aspects of their rescue. He's been researching fire safety procedures online, trying to understand how one person could save 5 others from a burning building. The logistics fascinate him, the route planning, the decision-making under pressure, the physical strength required. Dad, he asks when David returns from giving another police interview. How did he know which way to go? The fireman said the main stairs were completely blocked. David considers the question, impressed by his son's analytical thinking. Experience, I think. He understood how the building was constructed, knew there had to be another way up. The business part of David's mind is already calculating. Construction experience means union connections, employment records, people who might recognize the mystery hero. He's prepared to hire private investigators if police efforts stall. This debt will be paid, regardless of cost. Meanwhile, social media explodes with theories and speculation. The security camera image has been shared millions of times, spawning hashtags like #ChicagoHero and #FindHim. People dissect every pixel, searching for clues that might identify the mysterious rescuer. Local news stations offer rewards for information, leading to his identification. Marcus remains oblivious to his fame, focused instead on finding food and staying warm. He visits a downtown soup kitchen, where conversation revolves around the morning's headline. Fellow homeless individuals speculate about the hero's identity, never suspecting he sits among them. Guy's probably long gone by now, one regular suggests. Rich people got saved. He knows they'll want to throw money at him. Some folks don't want that kind of attention. Marcus nods along, understanding the sentiment better than anyone realizes. Attention means questions, and questions lead to discoveries he's not ready to face. His daughter Emma, his ex-wife Sarah, his former life all carefully buried to protect them from his failure. Recognition would dig up everything he's worked to keep hidden, but recognition is coming whether he wants it or not. The hard hat in a photograph is too distinctive, his actions too memorable. Chicago is a big city, but the construction community is smaller and tighter than most people realize. Someone will connect the dots soon. The Chen family doesn't know. They're searching for a ghost man who erased himself from official existence to spare his loved ones from witnessing his downfall. They're looking for a hero, But Marcus Thompson stopped believing in his own heroism the day he signed those divorce papers and walked away from everything that mattered. Still, heroism isn't something you lose, it's something that waits dormant, but intact until circumstances demand its return. Last night proved that Marcus's capacity for sacrifice survived everything else that was stripped away. The question now is whether he can survive being found. The local news van pulls up to the construction site where Tommy Rodriguez takes his lunch break, its reporter clutching a printed screenshot from the security footage. Tommy, a foreman with Hartwell Construction, nearly chokes on his sandwich when he sees the familiar yellow hard hat and recognizes the face partially visible beneath it. That's Marcus Thompson, he tells the reporter, his voice heavy with disbelief. Worked with him for 8 years before the accident. Best foreman I ever knew. Saved my life more than once on dangerous jobs. But Marcus left Chicago after his injury. Nobody's seen him in 2 years. The reporter's excitement is barely contained as she realizes she's found the first person to identify the mystery hero. Within an hour, Marcus Thompson's name spreads across every news outlet in the city. His construction history, his accident, even his divorce become public knowledge as reporters scramble to piece together his story. Marcus discovers his exposure the hard way. He's walking past an electronics store when his own face appears on the wall of televisions in the window display. The headline reads, "Hero Homeless Man Identified," while a photo of his former construction crew fills the screen. His carefully maintained invisibility shatters in an instant. Panic floods his system as he realizes what this means. Anna will see this. Sarah will see this. They'll learn that the man who walked away to protect them has been living on Chicago streets for 2 years. The shame he worked so hard to spare them from will now become public entertainment. He hurries away from the electronics store, but there's no escaping the media attention that's about to descend. His old hard hat, the artifact that should have remained buried with his former life, has become the most recognizable object in Chicago. Every homeless shelter, every soup kitchen, every place he sought refuge is about to be invaded by reporters searching for him. At Chicago General Hospital, David Chen stares at the television screen in amazement. The mystery hero has a name, a history, a devastating story of sacrifice and loss. David's respect deepens as he learns about Marcus's accident, his financial ruin, his decision to leave his family rather than burden them with his struggles. He lost everything saving other people, David tells Sarah, his voice filled with emotion. First his co-workers at that construction site, now us. This man's entire life has been about protecting others, even when it destroys him. Sarah wipes tears from her eyes as she watches Marcus's story unfold on screen. The construction accident, the medical bills, the foreclosure. It reads like a catalog of American dreams deferred and derailed. Yet this broken man found the strength to carry her family to safety when their need was greatest. We have to find him before the media circus gets worse, she says, recognizing the hunger in the reporters' voices. He saved our lives and disappeared because he didn't want recognition. Now everyone's going to be looking for him. Mei Chem sits quietly, her jade bracelet catching the hospital room light. Her experience with media attention during David's early business success taught her how quickly public interest can become intrusive harassment. This gentleman who saved her life is about to face scrutiny he never wanted or deserved. Detective Morales coordinates the search with new urgency, knowing that media attention will either help locate Marcus quickly or drive him deeper underground. Her team canvasses homeless shelters and known gathering places, but Marcus seems to have vanished from his usual haunts. He's hiding, she tells Detective Walsh. Smart enough to know what's coming and experienced enough to disappear when necessary. Military background, maybe? That level of tactical thinking doesn't come from construction work alone. She's right about his tactical instincts, but wrong about their source. Marcus learned to disappear from 2 years of street survival, not military training. Chicago's homeless community taught him which alleys avoid police patrol routes, which abandoned buildings stay unnoticed, which timing keeps you invisible to the normal world. At Roosevelt High School, 16-year-old Emma Thompson sits in stunned silence as her classmates buzz with excitement about the morning's news. Her father, the man who disappeared from her life to protect her, is suddenly Chicago's most famous hero. The irony cuts deep. He left to spare her from his shame, but now his heroism is broadcast citywide. Her phone buzzes with messages from friends who've connected the dots between her last name and the story dominating local news. Some offer support, others ask invasive questions, but all want pieces of a story that's been ripping her heart apart for 2 years. During lunch break, she calls her mother at the hospital where Sarah Thompson has worked since the divorce. "Mom, are you seeing this? Dad's all over the news." Sarah Thompson, who kept her married name out of respect for their shared history, watches the coverage with mixed emotions. Pride wars with heartbreak as she learns that her ex-husband has been living on the streets while she rebuilt their lives. The man who walked away to protect them has continued protecting others, even in the depths of his own despair. "He saved a family, Emma," she says softly. 5 people are alive because your father couldn't walk past someone in danger. That's who he's always been. Emma's voice cracks with emotion. "He could have stayed, Mom. We could have figured it out together. Instead, he's been sleeping outside for 2 years while we had warm beds." The guilt hits Sarah like a physical blow. She respects Marcus's decision to leave, understanding his desire to shield them from his downward spiral. But learning about his homelessness transforms that respect into heartbreak. How many nights did he sleep in the cold while she lay warm and safe? Across the city, Marcus finds temporary shelter in an abandoned industrial building, one of dozens he's cataloged during his time on the streets. The space is isolated enough to avoid media attention, but secure enough to provide basic protection from the elements. His yellow hard hat sits beside him, no longer a symbol of dignity, but a beacon drawing unwanted attention. He thinks about Emma, now 18 and probably preparing for college applications. She was always brilliant, destined for universities and opportunities he could never have imagined. Has his public exposure damaged her chances somehow? Do her classmates now know her father lives on the streets? The weight of unintended consequences settles over him like the building's cold shadows. He saved the Chen family because it was right, because people needed help, because walking past wasn't an option for someone with his conscience. But heroism has costs he never calculated. Ripple effects that extend far beyond the moment of action. His phone up, basic model he keeps charged at public. Libraries show 17 missed calls from numbers he doesn't recognize. Reporters, probably, or maybe curiosity seekers who've somehow obtained his contact information. He powers it off, cutting the last thread connecting him to a world that suddenly wants to know everything about him. The Chen family's search will intensify now that they have his name and history. Well-meaning people will scour the city looking for him, turning his refuge into a hunting ground. The invisibility that kept him safe for 2 years has been destroyed by a single night's heroism. But hiding has consequences too. Emma and Sarah now know he's been in Chicago all along, living rough while they move forward with their lives. His attempt to protect them by disappearing has become another source of pain, another wound that could have been avoided if he'd found the courage to stay and fight. Marcus closes his eyes and tries to rest, knowing that tomorrow will bring new challenges he's not prepared to face. Fame is a luxury that homeless men can't afford, yet circumstances have thrust it upon him whether he wants it or not. The hard hat beside him, artifact of a life he lost, has become the symbol of recognition he never sought. Soon, he'll have to choose between continued hiding and facing the consequences of being found. The warm leather wallet sits in Sarah Thompson's dresser drawer, untouched for 2 years but never forgotten. Inside, beneath expired credit cards and faded receipts, lies their family photograph from Emma's 14th birthday, the last picture taken before Marcus's accident changed everything. Sarah pulls it out now, studying her ex-husband's face as news vans patrol their neighborhood searching for any connection to Chicago's famous hero. She traces Marcus's image with her finger, remembering the man who used to build tree houses for Emma and repair neighbors' broken steps without being asked. The same hands that once crafted children's furniture now carry strangers from burning buildings. Heroism, she realizes, was never something he learned. It was always who he was. Emma sits on the front porch, watching reporters interview their neighbors about the Thompson family. Mrs. Patterson from next door gushes about Marcus's kindness, how he fixed her fence after the storm and refused payment. Mr. Rodriguez recalls Marcus teaching neighborhood kids basic construction skills during summer breaks. These memories feel surreal now, like stories about someone who died rather than someone who simply walked away. "He was the most decent man I ever knew," Mrs. Patterson tells the camera. "When he left after that terrible accident, it broke all our hearts. We always hoped he'd come back someday." Emma's phone buzzes with another message from a classmate. "Your dad's a hero. You must be so proud." But pride feels complicated when mixed with abandonment and loss. She's proud of his courage, devastated by his absence, and confused by the public attention suddenly surrounding their private tragedy. Inside the house, Sarah watches the news coverage with growing concern. Marcus's homelessness has become public knowledge, turning their family's private struggle into entertainment. She sees the hunger in reporters' eyes as they piece together the story. The devoted father who sacrificed everything, the family left behind, the heroic rescue that brought it all to light. Her phone rings constantly now. News producers want interviews about their marriage, their divorce, Marcus's decision to leave. They promise sensitivity while asking questions designed to extract maximum emotional impact. Sarah declines them all, protecting their privacy even as it disintegrates around them. At Northwestern Memorial Hospital, David Chen coordinates with his security team to avoid media attention while planning his next move. Learning Marcus's identity has only strengthened his resolve to find and help the man who saved his family. But the media circus surrounding Marcus's story complicates everything. "We need to be careful," Sarah Chen warns her husband. "This man clearly values his privacy. The last thing he needs is more attention because of our search efforts." David nods, understanding her concern, but unable to ignore his family's debt. In his business world, every transaction has reciprocal obligations. Marcus saved 5 lives and asked for nothing, an imbalance that demands correction regardless of the recipient's wishes. Private investigators, David decides. No media involvement. No public announcements. We find him quietly and help him on his own terms. May sits nearby, listening to her son and daughter-in-law plan their search while fingering the jade bracelet Marcus rescued from her nightstand. Her wisdom, earned through decades of observing human nature, tells her that this man's heroism springs from pain rather than strength. People who save others while destroying themselves usually have complex reasons for their self-sacrifice. "Be gentle when you find him," she advises. A man who walks away from family to protect them carries guilt that gifts cannot heal. He will need understanding before he can accept help. Meanwhile, Marcus moves through Chicago's underground network of abandoned buildings and forgotten spaces, staying ahead of the search parties combing the city for him. His years on the streets taught him routes invisible to housed people utility tunnels, service corridors, construction sites that provide temporary shelter without attracting attention. The media attention has turned his usual haunts into hunting grounds. Homeless shelters now host reporters interviewing residents about the mysterious hero. Soup kitchens become filming locations for human interest stories. Even his fellow street dwellers avoid him, recognizing that association with Chicago's most famous homeless person brings unwanted scrutiny. He finds temporary refuge in the basement of an abandoned church. Its congregation dissolved, but its structure still sound. The space reminds him of Emma's childhood, when she attended Sunday school while he and Sarah volunteered with community service projects. Faith feels distant now, tested by circumstances that destroyed his ability to provide for the people he loved most. His yellow hard hat sits on a makeshift table fashioned from milk crates, its scarred surface reflecting dim light from a battery-powered lantern. The helmet that once symbolized honest work now represents unwanted fame, making him instantly recognizable to anyone who's seen the news coverage. He considers throwing it away, discarding the artifact that's brought such attention to his carefully hidden life. But the hard hat represents more than just construction work. It's his last physical connection to the man he used to be, before pain and pride combined to strip away everything that mattered. The lantern's weak light illuminates other remnants of his former life. A pocket knife Sarah gave him for Christmas, a photograph of Emma's high school graduation that he watched from a distance, a warm business card from his construction company that he's kept despite its irrelevance. These objects anchor him to memories of competence and purpose, preventing complete dissolution into street anonymity. His phone, still turned off, to avoid reporter calls, contain 17 voicemail messages he's afraid to hear. Some might be from Emma or Sarah, voices he's protected himself from hearing for 2 years. Others could be from former colleagues expressing concern or offering help he's not ready to accept. All represent connections to a world he voluntarily left behind. Detective Morales updates her superiors on the search efforts, frustrated by Marcus's ability to remain hidden despite citywide attention. Her experience tracking missing persons tells her that Marcus doesn't want to be found, which makes him nearly impossible to locate using conventional methods. He's not just homeless, she explains to her captain. He's strategically invisible. 2 years of street survival taught him how to disappear completely when necessary. We're not looking for someone who's lost, we're looking for someone who's hiding. The distinction matters because it changes their approach. Lost people leave trails, make mistakes, eventually surface in predictable places. Hidden people avoid patterns, stay mobile, and trust no one with their location. Marcus falls into the latter category, making him a ghost in his own city. Social media campaigns asking for information about Marcus's whereabouts flood the internet. But street people know better than to trust authorities or media attention. The homeless community protects its own, especially when outside forces threaten someone's carefully maintained anonymity. At Roosevelt High School, Emma struggles to concentrate on her classes while reporters occasionally patrol the parking lot, hoping to interview her. Her teachers try to maintain normalcy, but the whispered conversations and pointing fingers make focusing impossible. Her father's heroism has made her a curiosity rather than a daughter grieving his absence. During lunch, her best friend Ashley approaches carefully. "Emma, I know this is weird, but my mom wants to know if your family needs anything." The whole neighborhood's talking about your dad being homeless while you and your mom were here. The question hits Emma like a physical blow because it forces her to confront the mathematics of their situation. Her mother works full-time at the hospital. They have a modest but comfortable home, enough food, adequate clothing. Meanwhile, her father sleeps in the cold because he believed his presence would make their lives worse. "We didn't know where he was," Emma whispers, the words barely audible. "He left to protect us from his problems, but we would have helped. We would have figured something out together." The guilt embedded in that statement reflects the complexity of Marcus's decision. His choice to leave wasn't cruel, it was sacrificial, motivated by love rather than abandonment. But sacrifice doesn't always achieve its intended goals, and protection doesn't always feel protective to those being protected. Back at the abandoned church, Marcus examines the burns on his hands from carrying the Chen family to safety. The minor injuries are healing, but they serve as physical reminders of a night that changed everything. He helped people because helping was the right thing to do, not because he wanted recognition or reward. The irony stings. He spent 2 years trying to disappear. Yet one night of visibility has made him the most sought-after person in Chicago. Fame is a burden he never wanted and can't afford, yet circumstances have forced it upon him regardless of his preferences. He thinks about the Chen family, wondering how they're processing their rescue and recovery. Do they understand that their hero is also broken? Can wealth and gratitude bridge the gap between their world and his? Most importantly, what obligations does saving someone create between the rescued and the rescuer? These questions have no easy answers, but they demand consideration as the search for him intensifies. Soon, he'll have to choose between permanent flight from Chicago or facing the consequences of being found by people whose lives he saved and people whose lives he left behind. The handwritten letter arrives at Emma, Thompson's high school 3 days after Marcus's identity becomes public knowledge. The envelope bears no return address, just her name written in careful block letters and delivered through the main office. Inside, 18 words that stop her breath. Emma, I'm sorry you learned about me this way. You deserved better than a father who walked away. Jad. She reads the message 17 times before showing it to her mother that evening. Sarah examines the handwriting, recognizing Marcus's careful script, despite the slight tremor that speaks to physical pain and emotional exhaustion. The fact that he knows where to find Emma, but hasn't approached directly, reveals both his continued love and his deep shame. He's still protecting us, Sarah realizes aloud. Even now, with everyone looking for him, he's keeping his distance to avoid bringing more attention to our lives. Emma clutches the letter like a lifeline, the first direct communication from her father in 2 years. The words are simple but loaded with meaning, acknowledgement of his choices, recognition of their impact, and an apology that opens the door to possibilities she'd stopped allowing herself to imagine. I want to write him back, Emma says, her voice thick with emotion. But how? He didn't give an address. Sarah considers the question, understanding her daughter's desperate need for connection while recognizing the complexity of their situation. Marcus clearly has ways of monitoring their lives from a distance, but reaching him requires navigating the media attention that surrounds their family. We'll figure it out, Sarah promises, though she's not sure how. Your father's always been careful and thoughtful. If he found a way to contact you safely, he probably has a way for you to respond. The letter represents more than communication. It's proof that Marcus has been watching over them despite his physical absence. The guilt embedded in his words suggests that seeing their lives broadcast on television has intensified his regret about leaving. Meanwhile, David Chen increases pressure. On the private investigation firm he's hired to locate Marcus, the team has identified several abandoned buildings where homeless individuals report seeing someone matching Marcus's description, but he remains elusive, moving frequently and avoiding patterns that would make him predictable. He's not hiding. Randomly, the lead investigator explains to David, this man has specific routes, trusted locations, survival strategies developed over 2 years. He knows we're looking for him, which means he's staying ahead of our search deliberately. David's frustration grows with each failed attempt to locate his family's rescuer. His business mind struggles with intangible debts and unmeasurable obligations. In corporate transactions, everything has clear value and defined terms. Saving 5 lives creates a debt that standard metrics can't quantify. What does he need? David asks Sarah during one of their strategy sessions. Money, housing, medical care, we can provide anything. But we can't help someone we can't find. Chen shares his frustration, but understands Marcus's position better than her husband does. Her social work background taught her that people avoid help for complex reasons: pride, shame, fear of judgment, past experiences with systems that failed them. Marcus isn't hiding from assistance. He's hiding from exposure. Amy Chen processes the search efforts through her artistic perspective, sketching imaginary scenes of Marcus living on Chicago streets. Her drawings depict the hero who saved her family as a solitary figure navigating urban landscapes, always moving, never settled. The artwork helps her understand his sacrifice while processing her family's guilt about his circumstances. Why won't he let us help him? She asks her parents during dinner at their temporary hotel residence. We want to thank him, not hurt him. David struggles to explain adult complexities to his 14-year-old daughter. How you describe pride that prevents accepting help? How do you convey the shame that drives good people away from those they love most? Sometimes helping people is complicated, he finally says. Sometimes the best way to help is to respect their choices, even when we disagree with them. But David's respect has limits, especially when those choices involve unnecessary suffering. His privilege has always provided solutions to problems, making Marcus's determined isolation both incomprehensible and unacceptable. At Chicago General Hospital, staff members who treated the Chen family begin sharing their own observations about Marcus with investigators. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who examined the family after their rescue, mentions Marcus's obvious back injury and the way he favored his right leg while walking. Chronic pain, she tells Detective Morales. Significant spinal damage, probably from trauma rather than disease. He was hurting badly that night, but adrenaline and determination carried him through 5 separate rescues. This medical insight adds another layer to Marcus's heroism while providing investigators with additional search parameters. Homeless individuals with visible mobility issues become more noticeable to service providers, creating potential leads for the search teams. Mei Chen spends her recovery time researching homelessness and its causes, trying to understand the circumstances that led her rescuer to the streets. Her discoveries shock her: the speed with which medical debt can destroy financial stability, the inadequacy of safety nets for injured workers, the maze of bureaucracy that often prevents rather than provides assistance. We live in different worlds, she tells her family. This man saved us, but our world failed him completely. Money and privilege protected us from understanding how quickly everything can disappear. Her words carry the weight of someone who remembers her own family's financial struggles during their early years in America. The difference between prosperity and poverty often comes down to timing, health, and circumstances beyond individual control. Marcus, still hidden in the abandoned church basement, has found newspapers containing follow-up stories about his rescue and his background. Reading about his own life from external perspectives feels surreal. Journalists describing his construction career, his accident, his divorce as if they were plot points in someone else's story. One article interviews his former supervisor, Tommy Rodriguez, who describes Marcus as the kind of man who'd give you his last dollar if you needed it more. Another quotes his ex-wife saying, "Marcus left because he loved us too much to watch us struggle with his problems." These public testimonials to his character make hiding feel increasingly pointless. If everyone already knows his story, what's the purpose of continued invisibility? Yet coming forward means facing questions he's not ready to answer and accepting help he's not sure he deserves. The yellow hard hat sits nearby, no longer just a construction tool but a symbol of the intersection between his past and present. It protected his head during 20 years of building other people's homes and dreams. Now it's become the artifact that might rebuild his own life, if he finds the courage to let people help him. But courage requires more than individual strength. It requires faith that acceptance won't lead to further disappointment. For a man whose attempts to protect his family resulted in their separation. Trusting others with his recovery feels like an impossible risk. The manila envelope slides under the door of David Chen's hotel room at 3 in the morning. Its contents destined to change everything the family believes about their rescue. Inside, along with a brief handwritten note, lies a faded photograph that reveals a connection spanning decades, a construction crew working on the original Chen Technologies building in 1998, with a young Marcus Thompson clearly visible among the workers. David discovers the envelope when he wakes early for his morning coffee, his sleep still disrupted by the lingering effects of smoke inhalation. The photograph stops him cold. There's Marcus, 20 years younger and wearing the same yellow hard hat, standing beside the foundation that would eventually support David's first major office building. The handwritten note is brief but profound. Mr. Chen, your father hired me to help build your company's first headquarters. I was proud to work on that project. Seeing your family trapped in the fire brought back memories of building something important together. I'm glad I could help. Again, Marcus Thompson. David sinks into a chair, studying the photograph with new understanding. Marcus didn't save them as a stranger, performing a random act of heroism. He saved them as someone with a personal connection to their family's success, someone who had literally helped build the foundation of David's empire. The revelation reframes everything. Marcus's willingness to risk his life wasn't just moral courage, it was personal obligation to a family whose prosperity he had helped create. The guilt that drove him to leave his own family was matched by loyalty that compelled him to save theirs. Sarah Chen examines the photograph over David's shoulder, recognizing the younger Marcus from security footage of the rescue. He looks so strong here, so confident. What happened to change him so completely? David knows the answer lies in the 20 years between the photograph and the fire decades, during which his wealth grew while Marcus's life crumbled. The same economic system that elevated one family destroyed the other, creating the circumstances that led to their dramatic reunion. We have to find him, David says with new urgency. This isn't just about gratitude anymore. It's about completing a circle that started when he helped build our company. The photograph serves as an artifact of connection, proving that their lives intersected long before the fire created a debt of gratitude. Marcus Thompson wasn't a random hero. He was someone whose labor contributed to the Chen family's success, making his current homelessness a particularly bitter irony. Amy Chen studies the photograph with her artist's eye, noting the pride evident in young Marcus's posture and smile. Construction workers in the image stand confidently beside their work, building something permanent that would outlast their individual contributions. The contrast with the broken man who carried her from a burning house couldn't be more stark. He helped Dad build his company, she says with wonder. Helped Dad build his Dad. Then he saved our lives 20 years later. It's like destiny. Kevin processes the revelation through his 11-year-old logic, fascinated by the mathematical improbability of such connections. What are the chances that someone who worked on our building would be walking past our house during a fire? David doesn't believe in destiny, but he recognizes the weight of historical debt. Marcus Thompson's hands helped lay the foundation for the Chen family's prosperity. Those same hands later carried them to safety when prosperity couldn't protect them from fire. The symmetry demands acknowledgement and action. Meanwhile, Marcus moves through his pride-on routine, unaware that his carefully crafted message has reached its intended recipients. Delivering the photograph required careful planning, surveillance of the hotel, timing to avoid security cameras, positioning to ensure discovery without detection. But he needed the Chen family to understand that his rescue wasn't random charity. The construction project photograph has been his most treasured possession during 2 years of homelessness, a reminder of better times when his work had purpose and his labor built lasting value. Sharing it with the Chens means giving up his last tangible connection to professional pride, but it also provides context for his actions. He remembers that construction project vividly, his first major commercial job, a chance to work on something more significant than residential housing. David's father, the company's founder, visited the site regularly, treating workers with respect and appreciation. Marcus took pride in crafting something that would support the dreams of immigrant entrepreneurs. The irony isn't lost on him now. He helped build the foundation for a fortune that could solve his current problems instantly. Yet pride prevents him from accepting such assistance. The success he helped create has grown beyond his ability to comprehend. While his own life contracted to the basic necessities of survival. At Roosevelt High School, Emma Thompson arrives early to avoid the reporters who still occasionally patrol the parking lot. Her father's letter remains in her backpack, reread so many times that the paper has begun to soften at the creases. She's composed 17 different responses, but lacks a way to deliver any of them. During her first period English class, she stares out the window and notices a familiar figure across the street, someone in a yellow hard hat walking quickly past the school grounds. Her heart races as she recognizes her father's distinctive gait, the slight favor of his right leg that she remembers from childhood. "Mrs. Patterson," she calls to her teacher, raising her hand urgently. "May I use the restroom?" Without waiting for permission, Emma rushes from the classroom and down the hallway toward the nearest exit. By the time she reaches the street, the figure has disappeared around a corner, leaving her standing on the sidewalk wondering if desperation had created an illusion. But the glimpse was real. Marcus had walked past his daughter's school, drawn by the need to see her despite the risk of exposure. Watching Emma from a distance has become his only connection to the family he left behind, a dangerous habit that could end his carefully maintained invisibility. The near encounter shakes him more than he expected. Emma looked older, more mature, carrying herself with the confidence he remembered, but also bearing burdens he never intended to place on her shoulders. His attempt to protect her by leaving has instead created different kinds of pain. Back at the hotel, David shows the construction photograph to his private investigator team, hoping the new information might provide leads for their search. The image confirms that Marcus has detailed knowledge of Chicago's construction industry and specific familiarity with Chen Technologies' properties. He knows our buildings, David realizes, not just from the outside, but from the construction phase. He understands structural details, access points, security systems information that could help him stay hidden or help us find him. The investigator nods, already forming new search strategies. If he worked on your buildings, he might feel comfortable using them for shelter. Service areas, utility spaces, construction zones, places where someone with his background could hide without arousing suspicion. This insight redirects their search efforts toward Chen Technologies properties throughout Chicago, focusing on areas where Marcus's construction knowledge would provide advantages. The hunter's understanding of the prey's expertise might finally tip the balance in their favor. But Marcus anticipated this possibility when he decided to reveal his connection to the Chen family. The photograph serves multiple purposes, explaining his motivation for the rescue, expressing gratitude for past employment opportunities, and misdirecting future search efforts away from his actual hiding places. The artifact that seemed to provide answers actually deepens the mystery while raising new questions about fate, obligation, and the complex ways individual lives intersect across decades. Marcus Thompson's story is more complicated than anyone imagined, and his reasons for hiding run deeper than simple shame or pride. The revelation changes everything for both families while solving nothing about Marcus's current location or future choices. Knowledge of their historical connection increases the Chen's determination to find him, while intensifying Marcus's reasons for staying hidden. Sometimes understanding motivation makes the problem harder rather than easier to solve. The Hospital room phone rings at dawn, jolting David Chen from restless sleep. Detective Morale speaks quickly, her voice tight with urgency. "We found him. Marcus Thompson is at Chicago General, same hospital where your family was treated. He collapsed outside the emergency entrance an hour ago." David's heart races as he processes the information. After days of searching, Marcus has appeared at the very place where the Chen family received treatment for smoke inhalation. The symmetry seems impossible, yet Detective Morales confirms the details. A homeless man wearing a yellow hard hat, unconscious from exhaustion and dehydration, identified by hospital staff who recognized him from news coverage. "Is he okay?" David asks, already reaching for his clothes. "Stable but serious," Morales replies. "Severe malnutrition, hypothermia, and what appears to be infected burns on his hands. The doctors say he's been pushing his body beyond reasonable limits for weeks." Within 30 minutes, David and his family arrive at Chicago General's emergency department, where medical staff explain Marcus's condition. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who treated the Chens after their rescue, provides the update with professional concern mixed with personal interest. "Mr. Thompson's been living rough for an extended period," she explains. "The burns from your rescue weren't properly treated, leading to infection. Combined with inadequate nutrition and exposure to extreme cold, his body simply shut down." Sarah. Chen asked the question weighing on everyone's mind. "Will he be okay?" "Physically, yes, with proper treatment and rest," Dr. Walsh responds. "Emotionally, that's harder to predict. He was conscious briefly and seemed agitated about being here. Hospital security had to prevent him from leaving against medical advice." The irony strikes David immediately. Marcus collapsed at the same hospital where the Chen family recovered from the fire. He helped them escape. Fate or coincidence? The convergence feels significant, as if the universe is demanding resolution to their unfinished business. Mei Chen, still wearing the jade bracelet Marcus rescued from her nightstand, studies the emergency department with thoughtful eyes. Her wisdom, earned through decades of observing human behavior, recognizes this moment as pivotal for both families. "He came here for a reason," she tells her family quietly. "Not just medical need, but something deeper. This man's heart is calling him back to the people he saved, even as his mind tells him to run." Meanwhile, across the city, Emma Thompson receives a phone call from her mother during second period chemistry class. Sarah Thompson's voice shakes with emotion as she explains that Marcus has been found and hospitalized. "He's alive, Emma. Sick, but alive. Do you want to see him?" The question Emma has dreamed about for 2 years suddenly feels overwhelming. She's imagined their reunion countless times, but always in scenarios where she was prepared, where she knew what to say. The reality of her father lying in a hospital bed, vulnerable and dependent on others, strips away all her rehearsed conversations. "Is he awake?" she asks, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes. The doctors say he's been fighting sleep because he doesn't want to stay. He keeps asking about leaving." Emma makes the decision instantly. "I'm coming. Pick me up at school." The drive to Chicago General passes in anxious silence as mother and daughter prepare for a confrontation 2 years in the making. Sarah parks outside the emergency entrance where Marcus collapsed, the same doors through which their family was carried to safety during his rescue of the Chens. Inside, Marcus drifts in and out of consciousness, his body recovering from weeks of pushing beyond reasonable limits, while his mind wrestles with the circumstances that brought him here. Hospital sounds, beeping monitors, rolling gurneys, overhead pages remind him of his own extended stay after the construction accident that changed everything. The yellow hard hat sits on the bedside table, placed there by paramedics who found it clutched against his chest when they responded to the collapse. Even unconscious, He hadn't released his hold on the artifact that represents both his former dignity and current notoriety. Dr. Walsh reviews his chart with growing concern. The infection from his untreated burns has spread further than initially diagnosed, requiring stronger antibiotics and extended treatment. More troubling is his psychological state. The few times he's been conscious, he's expressed desperate desire to leave despite his obvious need for medical care. Classic trauma response, she explains to her colleagues. He associates hospitals with loss of control, probably from his previous injury. The physical healing is straightforward, but emotional recovery requires different approaches. David Chen paces the waiting area, frustrated by protocols that prevent him from seeing the man who saved his family's lives. Hospital privacy regulations protect Marcus from unwanted visitors, but David's urgency to express gratitude wars with respect for medical procedures. He doesn't know we're here, David tells Sarah. Doesn't know we want to help. He's probably assuming he'll recover and disappear again. Sarah shares his frustration but recognizes the complexity of their situation. Maybe that's what he needs. Right now, time to heal without pressure from us. We can wait until he's stronger. But waiting feels impossible when Marcus's improved condition might enable another disappearance. David's business mind understands that opportunities close quickly. That timing often determines outcomes. This chance to connect with Marcus might not come again. Amy Chun sketches in her notebook, drawing the emergency department from memory while processing the morning's developments. Her artistic perspective captures details that others missed. Way morning light filters through hospital windows, the purposeful movement of medical staff, the controlled chaos that surrounds healing. I want to draw him, she tells her parents. Not for news or publicity, but for us. So we remember what he looked like when we found him again. Kevin processes the situation through his analytical mindset, calculating probabilities and outcomes. What if he leaves again when he gets better? What if this is our only chance to talk to him? The questions have no easy answers, but they highlight the stakes involved in their hospital vigil. Marcus Thompson has been found, but finding him and keeping him are entirely different challenges. As afternoon approaches, Emma and Sarah Thompson arrive at Chicago General, their own emotional preparation colliding with the Chen family's continuing presence. Two families, one seeking gratitude's expression, the other hoping for reconciliation, converge on a single hospital room, containing a man who changed both their lives. The yellow hard hat on Marcus's bedside table serves as a beacon, drawing everyone together. The artifact that transformed a construction worker into a hero and a hero into a hunted man. Soon, all the people whose lives Marcus has touched will gather in one place, forcing confrontations that have been delayed for days or years. Marcus sleeps fitfully, unaware that his collapse has initiated the very convergence he spent 2 years trying to prevent. The hospital that represents his rescue site has become his reunion point, where gratitude and guilt, sacrifice and salvation will finally meet face to face. The climax approaches not with violence or dramatic action, but with the quiet intensity of people preparing to bridge gaps created by love, loss, and misguided protection. Sometimes the most important battles are fought with words rather than weapons. And sometimes courage means accepting help rather than providing it. Marcus opens his eyes to find Emma sitting beside his hospital bed, her 18-year-old face, carrying the weight of 2 years' worth of unanswered questions. The yellow hard hat rests on the bedside table between them, its familiar scars catching the afternoon light streaming through the window. "Hi, Dad," she says simply, her voice steady despite the tears flowing down her cheeks. For a moment, Marcus thinks he's dreaming. The fever and medication have created vivid hallucinations before, visions of his daughter that dissolved when he reached for them. But Emma's presence feels too real, too solid to be imagination. Her hand rests on the bed rail, close enough to touch but respecting the distance he created when he walked away. Emma. The word comes out as a whisper, his throat raw from days of inadequate hydration. You shouldn't be here. The reporters, the attention. Stop, she interrupts gently but firmly. I've been dealing with reporters for days. I can handle whatever comes from seeing my father in the hospital. The determination in her voice reminds Marcus of Sarah, of the strength that held their family together during his recovery from the construction accident. Emma has inherited that resilience, but she shouldn't have needed to develop it so young. You've grown up, he observes, noting the confident way she carries herself, the mature clothing choices, the subtle makeup that suggests someone preparing for college rather than finishing high school. I had to, Emma replies without accusation. When your dad disappears, you grow up fast, but I never stopped hoping you'd come back. The words hit Marcus like physical blows because they exposed the fundamental flaw in his reasoning. He left to protect Emma from his problems, but his absence created different problems that she faced alone. Protection and abandonment feel identical to the person being protected. I wanted to spare you, he begins, but Emma shakes her head. You wanted to spare yourself the shame of us seeing you struggle. There's a difference, Dad. Her insight cuts through 2 years of self-justification, revealing truths Marcus has worked hard to avoid confronting. His departure was motivated by love, but it was also motivated by pride and unwillingness to let his family witness his diminishment. The hospital room door opens quietly as Sarah Thompson enters, moving with the careful grace of someone approaching a volatile situation. She looks older than Marcus remembers, her nurse's uniform neat and professional, but her eyes showing the strain of single parenthood and persistent worry. Hello, Marcus, she says, settling into the second chair that Emma must have requested. From hospital staff, Sarah. He tries to sit up straighter, instinctively wanting to present better than his current condition allows. You look good, healthy. You don't, she replies with characteristic honesty. You look like someone who's been living rough for 2 years. The directness is exactly what Marcus remembers about Sarah, her refusal to pretend things are better than they actually are. During his construction accident recovery, she was the one who insisted on realistic timelines and honest assessments when doctors offered false hope. I know how this looks, Marcus says carefully, but I'm okay. I've been managing. Collapsing. For malnutrition isn't managing, Sarah responds. It's slow-motion suicide, which is exactly what I was afraid of when you left. Emma reaches for her father's hand before stopping herself, unsure whether physical contact is welcome after 2 years of separation. Dad, we know about the Chen family. We know you saved them. Marcus's expression shifts, surprise replacing offensiveness. Oh, it's been all over the news for days, Emma explains. You're Chicago's most famous hero. Everyone's looking for you. The information overwhelms Marcus, who spent recent days focused on survival rather than media coverage. His rescue of the Chen family was meant to be anonymous, a private act of conscience rather than public performance. They want to find you, Sarah adds. The family you saved. They've been searching since the fire. Marcus closes his eyes, processing the implications. Media attention, search efforts, public interest. Everything he worked to avoid has descended on his carefully maintained anonymity. I didn't want recognition, he says quietly. I just saw people who needed help. And you helped them, Emma says with evident pride. Just like you always helped everyone. Remember when you fixed Mrs. Patterson's fence? When you taught the neighborhood kids carpentry? You've always been a hero, Dad. The only person who doesn't see it is you. The conversation is interrupted by soft knocking on the hospital room door. Dr. Walsh enters, followed by a hospital administrator, and, to Marcus's shock, David Chen. Mr. Thompson, David says formally, I hope you don't mind the intrusion. When we learned you were here, we had to come. Marcus tries to process David's presence while managing the emotional weight of reunion with his own family. The worlds. He's kept separate for 2 years, are converging in ways that feel overwhelming and inevitable. Mr. Chen, Marcus manages. Your family, are they okay? Recovered from the smoke? Thanks to you, yes. Everyone's fine. David approaches the bed cautiously, recognizing the delicate nature of the moment. We've been looking for you since that night. We need to thank you properly. No thanks necessary, Marcus replies automatically. Anyone would have done the same thing. That's not true, David says firmly. Most people would have called 911 and waited for professionals. You risked your life 5 separate times to carry my family to safety. The yellow hard hat on the bedside table catches David's attention, and his expression softens as he recognizes the artifact from both the security footage and the construction. Photograph Marcus sent to their hotel. I remember when you wore that hat, David says quietly. 20 years ago, building our first office, my father spoke highly of your work. Sarah and Emma exchanged glances, recognizing that their reunion has become part of a larger story involving people they don't know, but who clearly matter to Marcus's current situation. The hospital room fills with emotional weight as both families gather around Marcus's bed. 2 decades of separation and 2 years of searching culminating in this moment of convergence. Sarah Chen enters quietly with Amy and Kevin, while May follows with careful steps, her jade bracelet catching the light as she moves toward the man who saved her life. This is my family, David explains to Sarah and Emma Thompson. My wife Sarah, our children Amy and Kevin, and my mother May. Amy approaches Marcus's bedside with the reverence she might show a work of art, studying the face that she's drawn from memory dozens of times since their rescue. You carried me down those stairs when I was too scared to move, she says softly. I remember how gentle your voice was. Marcus looks at the 14-year-old girl, remembering her terror as smoke filled their mansion. She seems stronger now, more confident, but he can still see the frightened child he lifted to safety. You were brave, he tells her. Braver, then. You knew. Kevin stands slightly behind his sister, processing the moment through his analytical mindset. The fireman said the main staircase was completely blocked. How did you know about the service stairs? Construction background, Marcus explains, grateful for a technical question that doesn't require emotional vulnerability. I helped build that house's addition 15 years ago. Knew there had to be another way up. May approaches last, moving with the careful dignity of someone who understands the gravity of moments like these. She extends her hand toward Marcus, showing him the jade bracelet he rescued from her nightstand during the fire. You saved more than our lives, she says in accented but clear English. You saved our family's history. This bracelet belonged to my grandmother in China, my mother in Shanghai, and now me in America. Without you, it would have been lost forever. Marcus examines the delicate green stone, remembering how he grabbed it almost instinctively while evacuating May from her bedroom. It seemed important, he says simply. Everything was important that night, David interjects, his voice thick with emotion. You gave us back our lives, our future, our ability to be a family. We can never repay that debt. The word debt makes Marcus uncomfortable, suggesting obligation and transaction rather than simple human response to crisis. There's no debt, he insists. People help people. It's what we do. Not everyone, Sarah Thompson says quietly, speaking for the first time since the Chen family arrived. Marcus has always been the person who helps others, even when it costs him everything. Emma nods, looking between her father and the Chen family. He fixed our neighbor's problems for free, taught kids construction skills on weekends, and left his own family because he thought his presence would hurt us. Dad, always, puts other people first. David processes this information, understanding Marcus better through his family's perspective. The heroism displayed during their rescue wasn't an anomaly. It was consistent with a lifetime pattern of self-sacrifice. "Marcus," David says carefully, "I want to offer you something. Not as payment for saving us, but as recognition of your contribution to our family's success 20 years ago and your sacrifice for our safety last week." Marcus tenses, anticipating the kind of grand gesture that wealthy people believe solves complex problems. "Mr. Chen, I appreciate the thought, but let me finish," David interrupts gently. "I'm not talking about charity or handouts. I'm talking about opportunity." He pauses, ensuring he has everyone's attention before continuing. "Chen Technologies is expanding our construction oversight division. We need someone with your experience and integrity to manage projects, ensure worker safety, oversee quality control. The position comes with full medical benefits, housing assistance, and salary commensurate with your experience." The offer hangs in the air like a bridge spanning the gap between Marcus's past and potential future. Emma grips her father's hand, willing him to accept help for once in his life. "It's not charity," Sarah Chen adds, understanding Marcus's reluctance. "David's been looking for someone with exactly your background for months. The timing is coincidental, but the need is real." Marcus studies the faces surrounding his hospital bed, his daughter's hope, his ex-wife's encouragement, the Chen family's earnest desire to help. The yellow hard hat on the bedside table represents both his former competence and current vulnerability. "I don't know if I can do that kind of work anymore," he admits, gesturing toward his damaged back. "The accident changed what I'm capable of." "Construction oversight is different from hands-on building," David explains. "It's about knowledge, experience, judgment, things your injury can't take away. We need someone who understands both the technical and human sides of construction." Dr. Walsh, who's been observing quietly from near the door, steps forward to provide medical perspective. "Mr. Thompson, your back injury is serious, but manageable with proper treatment and accommodations. Desk work with occasional site visits would be entirely feasible." The medical validation removes Marcus's primary objection while forcing him to confront deeper fears about returning to professional life. Can someone who spent 2 years invisible integrate back into normal society? Can dignity be restored after such complete dissolution? "What about the media attention?" Marcus asks, voicing his remaining concern. "I don't want to bring unwanted publicity to your company." Amy Chen speaks up with teenage directness. "The publicity is already there. Every news station in Chicago has covered your story. You can either hide from it forever or use it to help other people." Her words carry wisdom beyond her years, suggesting that notoriety, properly managed, might become a tool for positive change rather than just unwanted exposure. "She's right," Emma says, squeezing her father's hand. "Your story could inspire other people who've lost everything. Show them that recovery is possible, that heroes aren't born perfect. They're made through choices." Marcus looks at his daughter, seeing Sarah's strength combined with his own determination to help others. Emma has processed his abandonment and emerged with grace rather than bitterness, understanding his motivations while refusing to excuse their consequences. "I left to protect you," he tells Emma quietly. "I ended up hurting you differently." "You did," Emma admits with gentle honesty. "But I understand why you thought it was necessary. Now I need you to understand why coming back is necessary too." The hospital room falls silent as Marcus weighs his options. Accepting David's offer means rebuilding connections he severed, trusting people with vulnerabilities he's hidden, and believing in his own worth after 2 years of self-imposed exile. The jade bracelet in May's hand catches the light, reminding everyone present of what can be saved when someone chooses courage over comfort. The yellow hard hat sits nearby, ready to return to service if its owner finds the strength to reclaim his place in the world. Sarah Thompson speaks into the silence. Marcus, you spent 2 years trying to disappear because you thought that's what we needed. Now we're all telling you what we actually need. We need you to come home. The simple word home breaks through Marcus's remaining defenses. Home isn't a place or a building. It's the people who refuse to let you go, even when you've let yourself go. It's the family that searches for you when you're lost, and the strangers who become family through shared crisis. Marcus closes his eyes, feeling the weight of 2 years' isolation lifting from his shoulders. When he opens them again, his voice is steady but emotional. I'd like to try. The job, coming home, all of it. I'd like to try. The hospital room erupts in quiet celebration as two families witness the moment when a man chooses hope over fear, connection over isolation, and future possibility over past regret. The yellow hard hat sits ready for a new purpose, and the jade bracelet gleams with promise of continuity across generations. Recovery will be gradual. Trust will need rebuilding, and adjustments will require patience from everyone involved. But the foundation has been laid for healing that extends far beyond physical injuries, reaching into the deeper wounds that only human connection can truly repair. 6 months later, Marcus Thompson stands in the lobby of the new Chen Technologies building, wearing a crisp white shirt and dark slacks, his yellow construction hard hat now serving as a paperweight on his office desk upstairs. The building he helped design during his recovery houses the company's expanded safety oversight division, with Marcus as its director, a position that transforms his decades of construction experience into systematic protection for other workers. The jade bracelet rests in a place of honor in the building's main display case, part of an exhibit about the intersection of family heritage and community service. Chen insisted on the public display, wanting employees and visitors to understand that valuable things can be saved when people choose courage over convenience. Through the lobby's floor-to-ceiling windows, Marcus watches Emma cross the plaza. Outside, heading toward the university shuttle that will take her to her first day of classes at Northwestern. His daughter chose to attend school locally rather than accept out-of-state scholarships, wanting to stay close during his continued recovery and reintegration. The decision wasn't sacrifice. Emma genuinely wants to study social work, inspired by witnessing how individual actions can transform multiple lives. Her application essay described learning about heroism from watching her father save strangers while struggling to save himself. Sarah Thompson has returned to her maiden name, but kept close ties with Marcus as they navigate co-parenting an adult daughter and rebuilding trust damaged by 2 years of separation. They're not reconciling romantically, too. Much has changed for that, but they're rediscovering friendship, built on shared history and mutual respect. Marcus's apartment is modest but comfortable, located in a building that Chen Technologies purchased and converted to affordable housing for employees and community members transitioning from homelessness. The yellow hard hat sits on his kitchen table during breakfast, a daily reminder of the journey from competence to catastrophe to recovery. His work involves reviewing construction safety protocols, conducting site inspections, and training new workers on hazard recognition. The position utilizes his technical knowledge while accommodating his physical limitations. He can climb stairs and walk job sites, but extended manual labor remains beyond his capabilities. More importantly, his role includes mentoring workers who face their own struggles with injury, addiction, or economic instability. Marcus's story, widely known thanks to continued media coverage, makes him uniquely qualified to identify and assist employees before problems become crises. David Chen often stops by Marcus's office. Their relationship evolved from employer-employee to something approaching friendship. They discovered shared interests in urban development and worker advocacy, common ground that extends beyond their dramatic first encounter. The Chen family has changed too. Their perspective on wealth and responsibility transformed by understanding how quickly circumstances can shift. Chen has returned to active social work, focusing on homelessness prevention programs. Amy continues her art, often sketching scenes from the city's homeless encampments to document conditions that most people prefer to ignore. Kevin, now 12 and showing increased interest in construction and engineering, often visits Marcus's office to learn about building safety and structural design. Their conversations range from technical details to broader questions about courage, sacrifice, and the responsibility that comes with knowledge and skill. Mei Chen, approaching her 79th birthday, has become an unlikely advocate for homeless services, speaking at fundraising events about the night a stranger saved her life and the importance of community safety nets. Her jade bracelet serves as a tangible connection between past and present, demonstrating how valuable things endure when people choose to preserve them. The media attention that initially felt overwhelming has settled into occasional positive coverage of Marcus's work and the Chen family's expanded charitable efforts. The story of their connection from construction site to rescue scene to workplace collaboration resonates with people who understand that individual lives often intersect in unexpected ways. Marcus still struggles with accepting help. Still, fights instincts towards self-reliance that served him poorly during his lowest period. But therapy sessions and regular medical care help him distinguish between healthy independence and destructive isolation. His back pain remains manageable through proper treatment and workplace accommodations that respect his limitations while utilizing his expertise. The construction industry knowledge that once seemed worthless has become invaluable in preventing other workers from experiencing similar injuries. On quiet evenings, Marcus sometimes walks past the site where the Chen mansion once stood, now rebuilt with enhanced fire safety systems that he helped design. The building serves as a physical reminder that destruction doesn't have to be permanent with proper planning and community support. Most things can be rebuilt better than before. The yellow hard hat that made him recognizable during his darkest period now sits proudly in his office, cleaned and polished but still bearing the scars from decades of honest work. Visitors often ask about its significance, providing opportunities for Marcus to share his story and encourage others facing their own struggles. Emma visits regularly, their relationship slowly healing from the wounds created by his well-intentioned abandonment. They're learning to communicate openly about difficult topics, his shame or anger, their shared love despite past mistakes. Trust rebuilds gradually through consistent presence and honest conversation. The construction photograph that revealed Marcus's historical connection to the Chen family now hangs framed in the building lobby, part of a display about the workers who built Chicago's infrastructure. Marcus appears twice in the exhibit, as a young construction worker in 1998 and as a safety director in the present, demonstrating how individual careers can span decades and transform entire industries. Sometimes people recognize Marcus on the street, thanking him for his rescue of the Chen family or sharing their own stories of struggle and recovery. He's learned to accept gratitude gracefully while using such encounters to direct attention toward systemic problems that create homelessness and toward organizations working to address those issues. The jade bracelet continues to rest in the lobby display, its green surface reflecting light that filters through windows designed to honor both innovation and heritage. Mei Chen's artifact serves as a bridge between cultures and generations, demonstrating how individual objects can carry profound meaning across vast distances and extended time. Marcus Thompson is no longer invisible, no longer running from connections that might expose his vulnerabilities. The man who once believed that love required distance has learned that love actually requires presence, imperfect, difficult, sometimes painful presence that refuses to abandon people during their worst moments. The yellow hard hat sits ready for whatever comes next, its scars telling stories of honest work, protective courage, and the possibility of redemption. Some artifacts break during use, but others grow stronger through service, becoming more valuable precisely because they've endured hardship without losing their essential purpose. Sometimes, the people society overlooks become the very ones who save us all. Sometimes saving others requires first learning to save yourself. And sometimes the most important construction project is rebuilding trust between people who love each other enough to try again, despite everything that went wrong. The 4